listening to Funding Rural. I'm Erin Borla with the Sisters Oregon-based Roundhouse Foundation. In recent decades, we've seen a steep drop-off in young people going into the trades in this country, but that trend has started to reverse. Lee Kounovsky has played a big role in steering young people toward meaningful and lucrative careers in trade work, from construction to electrical work and beyond. He's the Lane County Construction Trades Specialist, working with students at the community college, high school, and middle school levels. I've always been inspired by his kind heart and ability to really see his students. We met just after the 2020 wildfires here in Oregon, where he was inspiring students who had lost everything. That program blossomed into something even more incredible over the next few years, a program called Constructing a Brighter Future. February is Career Technical Education Month, and as we reflect on that, what does it mean to be a tradesperson? Lee knows it's more than just a job.
So when a student says, hey, I want to be an electrician, I go, great, what kind of electrician would you like to be? And then we look at the 10 different types of electricians. Or do you want to be residential or commercial? Do you want to be a technician? Some of our HVAC apprenticeships are just a technical part of that. So we try to match the students' interests and needs with their careers.
That's super cool. So in a pre-apprenticeship, that certificate, how long does that typically take?
It usually takes a student about 2 years to complete.
Yeah.
And that it gives them extra points when they apply. It should give them a little bit extra, value. It's showing an employer, I just spent 2 years of my time because this is what I want to do. I'm not here to do career exploration. I'm here to get to work.
Yeah.
So our students can come out as soon as they turn 18, they can start an apprenticeship program. So in that 16, 17-year-old group, what a perfect time to start building your pre-apprenticeship certificate.
Yeah.
I talk to them like, do you know what glaziers do? Do you know really what a welder does? So in that trade skills fundamentals class, we really dig into each trade. So a student has a really good idea of what they want. Sometimes they just know they want to work with their hands.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, you can make balloon animals. You can work with your hands doing that. But what is it you want to do and what really interests you about that trade?
Yeah.
I think we have to be careful sometimes that we listen to what students want to do and not tell them what we want them to do.
How does that work? Like, what's your skill set that helps people determine that?
So when I talk to a student about what do you want to do, and they say, I want to be an electrician, I avoid saying great, because great's just kind of verifying that that's what I think you should do. The questions we should be asking after they say, I want to be an electrician is, what led you to that decision? How did you know you wanted to be an electrician? What do you know about being an electrician? And you'll find they really don't know a lot, but they probably know somebody that's an electrician and they know they make money. So we start asking the tougher questions. Really, what is it you want to do?
Yeah. But you and I met sort of in an odd way after the Holiday Farm fire, which was a part of the 2020 complex fires here in Oregon. We lost several homes across the state, but in Lane County specifically in the McKenzie River Valley, you were building sheds. It was during COVID, and you pulled students from different school districts across Lane County and started building sheds. Talk a little bit about that project.
Yeah, after that Holiday Farm fire, we sat around for a few months going, how can we help? What can we do? We came across a program called Sheds of Love, and it was something that was developed after a hurricane happened in the Louisiana area, I believe, that people need a shed to start rebuilding their lives. This fire comes through, destroys the town, destroys hundreds and hundreds of homes. They go there, they're starting to clean their property. They show up a few chainsaws, maybe a generator, and they're starting to work on their property. They go home, they come back, and everything's gone. Well, these sheds were necessary for them to leave their tools and equipment there, maybe possibly spend a night in it if you wanted to. And so you can start rebuilding your lives up there. We started thinking about what can we do to help? So this Sheds of Love thing came up, and faith-based organizations were already starting to do that. So we joined forces with them, and we put out 144 sheds in that area for people to start rebuilding their lives. And now, what, 3 years, 4 years after the fires, I still get to drive up there and see a few of these sheds that these students built. We took the students from McKinsey High School. That was the school. That school stayed. It did not burn in the fire. And we gathered up there and we started building these sheds. And we did it with the students who had lost their own homes there.
Hmm.
And for 6 to 8 weeks, we showed up, and with those students, we built sheds. We built, well, with help from some other schools and help from our employers and our business partners. We built, like I said, 144 sheds. I think our students built 44 of those sheds right there in the high school areas. And what amazed me is these students lost everything, and they were willing to show up and build sheds and help their neighbors out. And those students, there was probably 15 of them, never asked for anything for themselves. It was always about, what can I do for my community? I think sometimes we think of our teenagers as not caring, not wanting, not knowing what's going on. But this group came out and just and built and built and built and gave to the community. And we would get an order for a shed to be dropped off, and the kids would go, "Oh, that's going to Bill and Linda. We know Bill and Linda." And then they would, get a little excited about if they knew the family this shed was going to.
Hmm.
So we went up and did that, and towards the end, I realized that there was a few students who were still living in wet, soggy tents. And this is in the springtime, never complaining, showing up every day to do the job for the community. So at the end, we finally got that family a shed. So those boys had a place to, change their clothes instead of a small little tent. And they kind of used that as a part of their life until they got things back together again.
Yeah,
But they never, ever asked for anything for themselves.
that project was incredibly touching and pulled so many people together and really led the sort of this community development and pride in a place that had been truly devastated. And I loved it. At one point, towards the after the last shed had been delivered, you all were did an art project too.
Yeah, we got our art students to make murals. So if you go up there on some of these sheds, is the story of the fire. So the kids painted the mural of what the town looked like before the fire, what it was like going through the fire, and then at the end where we're all together putting up a shed to start rebuilding the community.
Yeah.
So there's these different murals as you drive through town that tell the story.
So it was Sheds of Hope and then became Constructing a Brighter Future, which
Right.
enabled all of the school districts in Lane County to work on this project. But then it has morphed into this really, really fantastic program called Team Oregon Build. Can you talk a little bit about Team Oregon Build?
So Team Oregon Build picked it up and decided that this could be replicated in other high schools. So we went down to the south part of the state at Klamath Falls. We had a professional development. We showed them how to build sheds and shelters and how to follow the step-by-step directions. And these things, like you were saying, are in a kit. So we built a few down there, and then that morphed into, hey, this region over here in Pendleton would like you to come. So we went over to Pendleton because there was some fires going on over there, and we taught 30 some teachers over there how to take this back to their high school. So Team Oregon Build grew from just a shed after our fire into now we've got 4,000 students, I believe, building sheds and shelters for any disaster area we have. We've hit every part of the state now in Oregon. Every teacher that teaches construction or ag or manufacturing of any kind has the opportunity to come to a PD, learn how we build things, learn how to build curriculum around these things. And then they get to take these back at no cost to the school or the students. The state of Oregon graciously gave us a bunch of money with some other private donors, and that got us launched. And there's a lot of those being built right now. We're not a manufacturing, we're not a company that manufactures these things at a high rate of speed. because it's a learning opportunity. And these students are learning how to build sheds. And then the outcome is community benefits. So it's just grown so much in a year and a half. Uh,
Yeah.
it's kind
No,
of
it's been really incredible to watch. And I think the state saw that, as you mentioned, with some state investment around CTE dollars and other things. But what I love is the intersectionality of it, right? It's addressing not only what your student development needs are in your career trades programs, but we have a career trades shortage of workers. So now we have this additional support for students to find their pathway. We have a housing shortage in this region. So it's providing opportunities to actually create housing. And then in Eugene specifically, where you all work and sort of where this started, the homes are going to, what is the name of that? The place where the cottages are ending up right now.
Yeah, the majority of the homes are going to Everyone Village right now. These
Mhm.
8 by 12, 8 by 16 cottages, and it's just a room. There's no bathroom in these. There's some electrical, smoke detector, light bulbs type stuff, but there's no bathroom in these. This goes to Everyone Village. Everyone Village is about 70 of these cottages now. They help people that come off the street. They need a hand up, not a handout. And they come in here, they kind of get their lives back together again. They might finish up some GED or some education they have. What I like about this is the services are coming to the village.
Mhm.
So instead of putting somebody on a bus and sending them to an office somewhere, the services are now coming there and helping these people out. I believe last time I talked to the director there, Gabe, he said that 60% of the people that come into this shelter within 1 year now have moved on to their own apartments and
Mm.
they've gotten their lives back together. They just needed a place to kind of gather again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where we send a lot of them, but there are some faith based organizations, some churches, some community things that want to help. They're unhoused right
Mhm.
now, and they're putting these up and helping people off
Yeah.
the streets. I was in a small community just this week, and they were talking about the guy under the bridge, and everybody in this community knew him, and they referred to him as the guy under the bridge. But now this guy has a little shelter that he's staying in until he can get his life back together again.
Yeah. And that shelter was built by your students.
Built by students,
Yeah.
yeah, and some of the other things that amaze me is when we go out to Everyone Village. We take our students to Everyone Village. They walk into Everyone Village as they get off the school bus, and they look just like a typical teenagers getting off a school bus. They're looking down, they're looking at their phones. Some are kind of looking around, and then we go into the village and we start meeting the people that are receiving these shelters. And the transformation of watching a teenager realize that the world is bigger than they are. There are people out there who are suffering and who are in need. And they walk away with a sense of, I am making a difference. I can make a difference in my community. They leave, they're hugging each other, they're high fiving the director on the way out. So they walk away with a lot of empathy, sympathy, like, I get it. And now they come back to build and they have more purpose to build these sheds and shelters now once they meet these people. It's hard to describe, but just to see it happen when they're there is such a beautiful thing to
Yeah.
watch a
Yeah.
teenager all of a sudden realize, oh, the world is bigger than I am.
So this podcast specifically is about how do we engage more philanthropic support into rural and remote communities, and talking a little bit about some of the programming that exists in those places, but also how rural communities and communities in general work. And a lot of that is, leaning on each other and understanding the intersections of all these different things. You grew up rural and live in a rural place right now, right?
Yeah, I live on 5 little wooded acres and have all the animals and have fun with the stuff. So yeah, and yeah, it's different. Rural kids have a different way of looking at things as well. They know how to get stuff done,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
like. But no, it's just It's great. And every school, even our smallest schools that have 7 seniors, this is sometimes we have some small high schools. They're out there giving to their community. Now that community project, we're building a shed or a shelter, and then all of a sudden we're helping the library on the fence, or we're building a something for somebody in town that's given us the money and then the materials, and our students can then learn and build from this. So
Yeah.
it's going to be bigger than sheds and shelters. We have our middle schools. We have them building Adirondack chairs and these benches that go into picnic tables, and we have them building just other things that can help our communities.
Yeah. Well, and you've seen so many students go through this. Do you have any stories of students that were like, "Oh my gosh, I never thought that this person would end up doing this," or seen any changes in students specifically?
Yeah, for a lot of my time, I was in public education. I taught at alternative schools.
Mm.
So I loved that I could get kids maybe from like juvenile detention that would come in, or just kids that never found a connection in school. 10% of all students just don't fit in the high school mold. And I would get them and I would teach them how to make money by building things so they don't have to sell drugs, they don't have to steal or anything. I can make legitimate money if I show you a few skills and you go to work, you show up on time, you ask good questions, and to change their lives from I'm not good at anything, I don't fit into school. And now I go around town and I have one favorite student that I run into constantly, and he has a fence and deck building business. He has like 15 employees. He's making bank. Um, he maybe lost a thumb along the way, but he's doing a really good job. And every time I see him, I ask, "Can I see your thumb?" He did that after my class. So
Oh, good. Let's make that very clear that that
yeah,
was post
but I
education.
do love running into students that and then see them being successful in these trades. Sometimes one time they came out and they were putting in the cable TV, and sure enough, it was two of my students doing that. So ex students. So it's fun to run into them. They're building a new building here on Lane Community College's campus, and one of the glaziers was one of my students and yelled out.
Aw.
He said to me, "You gave me a B in your class," and I had to respond with, "Well, I was feeling very generous that day, I guess." So um,
Oh my
it
goodness.
is a lot of fun to run into your students. It is a
Yeah.
lot of fun. A lot. It's after you teach them, you don't know what they're going to do. Like after you build a house, you can look back and go, "Oh, I built a house." But in education, they just leave after graduation. So when you get to run into them later on and you get to hear their life story and how many kids they have and how many cars they have and homes, you feel good about teaching those skills to them.
Yeah. Well, and as you have students coming from so many different areas, what are some of the barriers for students to participate? Like other than, hey, my buddy's at the lake and I'd rather be at the lake. But are there other things? Like what's the cost to even once you make that decision, is there a cost to participate? And what does that
Yeah.
look like?
In the high school, there is no cost
Hmm.
for this pre-apprenticeship. In the college, though, my class runs, I think I just saw, was $850.
Yeah.
So depending on how much money you make, what category you fall into, there is some aid out there for people to come back to school again. But it does cost a little bit of money, and I think that's a barrier. Some people just don't have it, or they don't know how to access the free money that's available, or the grants, or any of that. I think transportation is a huge thing. I couldn't wait to get my driver's license. I was 16 days and 2 minutes, and I was at the DMV ready to take my driving test. And students now, they're in their 20s. They can't afford a car. They can't afford the maintenance on a car, the insurance on a car, the gas. So transportation is also
Yeah.
seems to be a barrier.
Hmm.
I don't know how to fix that one. Start working,
Yeah.
and then you can buy a car, a reliable car. So
Yeah. What about tools and other things? Are there tool requirements or other sort of things outside of tuition and fees that would be required for a program like yours?
Yeah, each trade has their like beginning toolkit, right?
Yeah.
So we at one point we had some money, we got some grants. We were giving students $500 when they exit the program.
Mm,
That month that funding is dried up now, but that would give them some Carhartt boots, or that would give them, work clothes,
yeah.
boots, and a small starter set of tools. Give them some hard hat, we give them PPE, give them vests, all those things that they need to start the trades with, we have for them. Now we do union, non-union, mom and pop shops. We
Mm,
all sit at the table because we all need these students to someday be our employees. So we don't promote one or the other. We just let the students make that decision.
yeah.
Sometimes a union is better for you. Sometimes a non-union is. It's up to them to decide, and we
Mm,
just open the door to all of those possibilities.
yeah.
Sometimes in the union trades, they'll give you tools.
Hmm.
Sometimes in a non-union, they'll give you a starter set. And I know when I started out, I was allowed to buy tools, and then at $25 a week was taken out of my paycheck until I paid back that whatever it was I needed to start my career with. But I wish we had a funding stream. I wish we had a funding stream. It's about $50 for the kids to get their OSHA 10. So somebody to sponsor that would be really nice. It's I think it's around $30 to take the 10 tests. These are industry recognized credentials. They're like $2 and $3 a test, and they need to take 10 of those. Sometimes students have to scramble, or we'll buy those tests for them if we have to. Schools just don't have a bunch of money around to pay for things like this. It's not in their budget, so we go out and we look for somebody to sponsor 20 students to get their OSHA 10 card or something like that. So
Yeah.
those are barriers.
Yeah. And they're hidden too, right? I think as we sort of as outsiders, right? Oh, it's great. You can go to the community college and it costs less than going to university, or you come out and you have this really great paying job really quickly. But there are those hidden barriers, and sometimes that $50 or the $100 worth of gas for a month is enough to deter a student to not participate.
Yeah, exactly. If they don't have eh, eh, the funding and then a mentor, somebody that can go, yeah, you can do this. I'll help you do this.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need that external voice to get you going on a day that you're not feeling like this is for me. So
How long have you been doing this work?
this is my 30th year. I came out of industry after an automobile accident, and I couldn't go back to being a welder fabricator. So this is how I ended up in this position. And you know, it's not bad. It's not bad to give back to students the skills that I was taught from an early age of like 14 on
Yeah.
how to work, how to do things.
That's an
We
impact.
we have this gap, and we have to start filling this gap up. We can't wait any longer. We're already almost, I feel we're too late sometimes to start filling the gap of what we need out there. So,
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. It definitely takes one idea and passionate people. And look at you changing the world.
well, we're trying. We're trying to help. And students really want to give to their communities. They,
Yeah.
they feel so much better about themselves and their communities when they're giving than when they're just taking, keeping their heads down and eyes on the phone.
Well, thank you, Lee, for spending time today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks.
I think everybody feels better when they're giving back to the community and being a part of something bigger than themselves, and especially young people. It's not about telling students what they should do, it's exposing them to ideas and opportunities. And we certainly know in philanthropy that it's more than a grant check. It's we give an opportunity for folks to try something, to take a risk, to try something in their community that maybe they didn't have the resources to try. And for young people, it's a chance for them to give back, to learn about what that service is. Looking back at the last episode with Greg Weatherford from Allstate Foundation, encouraging young people through acts of service. And what Lee's doing here in Oregon, inspiring students to be their best selves through learning skills just for themselves, and then that helps them be a part of something slightly bigger. They're creating something that then is solving another greater problem or a greater challenge. But it's coaching them without them even knowing to keep their head up, that they're a part of something. There's all sorts of ways that philanthropy can step in, especially as it relates to the trades, as it relates to people getting an opportunity to try something. As Lee mentioned, paying for some certifications or tests or certain programming or certain items that students might need so everybody can try something. We'll definitely share links to Lee's program. Remember, everything he's got is open source, and all sorts of other information at fundingrural.com.